Hello, my name is Sagar Kale and the title of my talk is Fully Dynamic Core Sets. This is joint work with Monica Hensinger. One keyword in the title is core sets. So let's motivate that. Let's say you have a huge input of size n and you want to run, say, some machine learning algorithms on this input, taking time t1 of n, t2 of n and so on. Since n is huge, the running time of these algorithms is going to be significant. But if you compute a core set C of the input of size s prime much smaller than n, then you can run these algorithms on this small core set to get a much smaller running time. Note that now the new bottleneck becomes t of n, which is the time required to compute a core set of the input. The other keyword of the title is fully dynamic, which is our computational setting. So in this setting you start with some input, say x1 of size n1, and then you make a small number of changes to the input, deleting some points or adding some points, and then you get the new input x2 of size n2 and n3 and so on. Since the changes are small, n1, n2, n3, these numbers don't change by much. Now if you want to maintain a valid core set of these inputs as the input evolves, the simplest thing you can do is just recompute. So by running the core set algorithm on x1 in time t of n1, you get the core set c1, and for c2 you need time t of n2 and so on. But since the input doesn't change by much, you would expect that this update time, so time to update your output as the input evolves, should not be proportional to the input size, but some small, it should be something small, right? And that's exactly what we show in this paper. We show that how to update an existing core set with after some small number of updates in time proportional to the size of the core set. More concretely, as an example to see what this means, for example, if t of n is linear and your core set size is constant, then you get update time constant as opposed to linear, and this is a significant improvement. Now we use the problems of k median and k means to get some concrete results, for which the input is xw, which is positive weighted points. Let's say the input is this set of points in a metric space, and you want to select k centers. Let's say you pick centers this and this, and you assign each of the points to its closest center, and let di be the distance of point I to its closest center. Then you want to minimize sum of costs of each point. Right? What is the cost of a point? For k median, it is just the weight of that point times di, which is the distance to its closest center, and for k means the cost is weight of that point times di squared. So our results apply to a more general setting. So let me just describe with some notation what that setting is. So let's say we have a problem P, which we think, for example, as k median or k means. The input comes from a universe U, which you can think as the set of points in a metric space U comma D. The input we denote by set xw, which is a positive weighted subset of U, and we denote by n the input size. The set Q denotes a feasible solution space. That is, for example, for k median k means, it's set of all subsets of the universe of size k. And C is our cost function. For example, for k median, cost of a feasible set S with respect to a weighted subset YW of the universe is just sum of costs of each point with respect to S. So here this distance di depends on the feasible set S. And as you would expect, your goal is to find a feasible solution of smallest cost. Okay, so now we define what a core set is formally. A core set, a weighted subset C of Y is Y's epsilon core set if for all feasible solutions the cost of that solution with respect to the set C is within 1 plus or minus epsilon of cost of S with respect to the original set Y. Now here by weighted subset I mean just the underlying unweighted subset, unweighted sets are have this subset relationship, but a point in C can have weight larger than a point in the corresponding weight in Y. And also from now onwards I will not say the subscript W, it just means that the set is weighted. Okay, so if you have a small core set, by this definition we can solve problems faster by running the algorithms on the smaller set than instead of running them on the original set. And for k median and k means, we know that there are O tilde of nk time algorithms to compute an epsilon core set of size order k polylog n by epsilon square. Here in this O tilde notation I am hiding polylog factors. Now how to get fully dynamic core sets for k median and k means? What you can do is simply just recompute, and that takes O tilde of nk update time. Here n denotes the current number of points. Cohen-Haddad et al. Showed how to get order 1 core sets of size order k polylog n in amortized update time of order n log n. What we show improving this result is that we can get epsilon core sets of size O tilde k log n by epsilon squared in worst case update time of O tilde of k squared log to the 5n by epsilon squared. But more importantly, we give a very general technique to get core sets in fully dynamic setting based on a static algorithm for computing core sets. Okay, so we need two properties that our core sets should satisfy. One is mergeability. It essentially says that union of two core sets is a core set. So if you have two weighted subsets x1 and x2 which are disjoint, and C1 is an epsilon core set of x1, C2 is an epsilon core set of x2, then their union C1 union C2 is epsilon core set of x1 union x2. To prove this, we just need the cost function to be linear, which means that for all feasible sets S and disjoint weighted sets y1 and y2, the cost of S with respect to the union is sum of the costs of S with respect to each individual set. The next property we need is reducibility, which says that core set of a core set is a core set. So if you have set C prime which is an epsilon core set of C, and if C double prime is a delta core set of C prime, then C double prime is an epsilon plus delta core set of C. Now Harpeled and Mazumdar gave this technique which is called merge and reduce, that works in insertion only setting. Now in this technique we think of input as as divided into these buckets, where each bucket bi has capacity to store 2 raised to I points. So there are about log n buckets, and each bucket is either empty or full. And we think that each point belongs to exactly one bucket. That means as points are inserted, the state of this buckets changes like a binary counter. So let's see an example. Here are the buckets, say from B0 to B8. This gray shaded bucket means it's full, and a white bucket means it's empty. So if you insert a new point P, the status changes as follows. So you look at the smallest index bucket that is empty, which in this case is B3. So you take points in all the previous buckets, and along with P you insert that into B3, and then you make all the previous buckets empty. Now what the algorithm actually does is that it has a bunch of core sets corresponding to each of these buckets, and it maintains the invariant that the core set Ci is an epsilon core set of bucket Bi at every time. So how do you compute these core sets? So let's say this is the status of your core set at when the point P arrives. What the algorithm does is it takes a union of this core set and a new point, and it computes an epsilon by L square core set of that union by using a static, which is a non-dynamic algorithm, and it puts that core set in that bucket, and it makes so it puts that core set in the set CL, and it makes all the previous core sets to be empty. Now if you observe, we don't really need these buckets, right? So you just need to store log n core sets, each of size order k polylog n by epsilon squared, because each of them is a core set. So you see that update time is order core set size times k polylog n, because running time of a static algorithm is its input size times k polylog n. This means we get an update time of order k squared polylog n by epsilon squared. Okay, so now we discuss our technique, which we think of as a fully dynamic analog of merge and reduce. So we always maintain a complete binary tree. That means it is a tree which has all the levels full except possibly the last one, where all the nodes are packed to the left, and that's why it has log n many levels. We say that the lowest level is level 0, and we increment the level number as we go up. So each leaf node in this tree will correspond to a point, and each internal node will correspond to the union of points at its children. Now how does an insertion work? Let's say you have the state of the tree as this, and you want to insert a new point P8. You insert it to the right of the rightmost leaf on the lowest level. To achieve this, you identify the leftmost leaf on the second last level, which is this, and then you make it have two children. One is P7 in this case, another is going to be the newly added point P8, and this becomes the new tree. To handle deletions, we proceed as follows. So let's say this is your tree and you want to delete the point P2. What you do is you swap the contents of this point, this node, with the rightmost leaf node on the lowest level, which is this, and then you delete this node, which results in moving this point P5 to its parent, and this P2 becomes P6 like it. So this is the new state. Now note that in both insertion and deletion, two leaf nodes are affected, and since these are these nodes are updated, we also want to update these nodes on the leaf to root paths from this to updated nodes. So now we describe the algorithm. We let me first say that we actually don't maintain these point sets as I described, but we'll just maintain a core set of those points. And this is how we update the core sets at all of these nodes. So for all the at most 2 log n affected nodes, after an update, you run the static algorithm which is at your disposal to compute an epsilon by log n core set of the union of core sets at the children. So that's it, that's all the algorithm. So what is its update time? So since we use the algorithm of Braverman et al. As our static algorithm, which has running time of O tilde of input size times k, our update time is as follows. We run about 2 log n instances each of which uses this static algorithm, and each of those instances gets the input of size order k polylog n by epsilon squared. Remember, each node has only a core set. That means this is the input size. And combining this, we get that in all our update time is order k squared polylog n by epsilon squared. Okay, now we show the correctness of this procedure. We claim that at an internal node at level I, the core set is an I epsilon by log n core set of all points at leaf nodes in its subtree. This proof is easy. We show it by induction on level number I. So let's say at an iteration you update this internal node at level I, and let's say these are the children, and by induction hypothesis they hold an I minus 1 epsilon by log n core set of the children in their subtrees. By mergeability, the union of these 2 core sets is also an I minus 1 epsilon by log n core set of the union of the children. I mean union of the points at the leaf nodes in their subtrees. And by reducibility, an epsilon by log n core set of this core set is going to be an I epsilon by log n core set of the whole set of leaf nodes in its subtree. This proves the claim, and to show the correctness, we just observe that the root is at level log n. That means it contains an epsilon core set of all points. But is that all? No, we skipped some important details which I discuss now. So remember that this is a dynamic setting and your current number of points n change with time. So if you computed a core set of quality epsilon by log n, then after let's say a huge number of insertion, that quality of that core set is reduced by a lot, and the claim I mentioned earlier doesn't hold anymore. So how do you handle this? So we handle this using what we call refresh pointers. So let's say your refresh pointers R1 and R2 point at these 2 leaf nodes. Then you just update this leaf to root path after you receive an update. And in the next update you move these pointers to the next 2 leaf nodes and you update this path and so on. Right, and when you do this refresh, you use 4n as a proxy. So you compute an epsilon by log 4n core set of the children. If you use that proxy, then we are good for at least next 3n updates, because the number of points are not going to grow beyond that. This is just the idea. How do we implement this idea? We divide the timeline into phases. So phase I starts with ni points and it lasts for ni by 2 updates, that is insertions or deletions, and then the next phase starts and so on. In phase I, we compute an epsilon by log 4 ni core set of the children, that is we use the proxy for n to be 4 times ni. Now why exactly does this proxy work? We demonstrate this by a graph of the current number of points versus the number of updates. So here on x-axis you have number of updates, and on y-axis you have current number of points. Phase I starts with ni points, and the number of points changes as the phase progresses. Since the phase lasts only for ni by 2 updates, this number of points is less than 3 ni by 2 throughout the phase. Now it ends with number of points to be ni plus 1, and again as this phase progresses, the number of points is always less than 4 times ni, which means that if you updated an instance in this phase, it's going to stay fresh till the end of this phase, on end of the next phase, because we use the proxy for ni. And since the number of points, that is the number of leaf nodes at the beginning of phase, is ni, and we use 2 refresh pointers, and the phase lasts for ni by 2 updates, we will have hit all the leaf nodes and updated all the instance on their on the path from them to the root. And also any newly created instances will have been updated with this proxy. So this essentially gives us that each instance gets updated in each phase. So by the end of this phase, all the instances will have been using this proxy value of 4 ni. This means that this extends to the next phases and our instances are always fresh. That's how you implement this refresher routine. Okay, there is another challenge. So the input numbers are, say, bounded by n to the c, and the static algorithm may output weights to have numbers bounded by n raised to 2c. The algorithm that we use, or the best algorithm by Braverman et al., is of this type. And what problems can this cause? So the weights at the lowest level will be bounded by n to the c. Weights on the second level number 1 will be bounded by n to the 2c, then n to the 4c, and so on. So on the root, the weights could be as large as n to the nc. These numbers are big. They use n many memory words, and to handle these weights, your update time is n, which is really bad. You might as well recompute your core set. The way to handle this is to do a careful rounding, and for this we use the refresher routing crucially. I'm not going to discuss the detail, but let me just mention that it's some non-trivial work. Okay, now one last thing. The algorithms are not deterministic, and this is easy to handle. We make failure probability at each internal node to be lambda by n, and by taking a union bound over at most n internal nodes, the cumulative failure probability is at most lambda. So what did we see in this talk? We give a general technique that achieves the following. So if you have a static core set construction algorithm with running time t of ns, epsilon s, and lambda s, where ns denotes the input size, epsilon s denotes the desired core set quality, and lambda s denotes the failure probability, and it outputs a core set of size s of ns, epsilon s, and lambda s. Then we can get a fully dynamic epsilon core set with worst case update time as shown here. So let me say something about this this update time. So this log n corresponds to the number of levels, because we updated those many instances at each time, and the first argument to the function t is set of the size of the core set maintained at each internal node, which is going to be s of n, epsilon by log n, and lambda n. So now this epsilon by log n corresponds to the core set quality that we maintain at each level, and lambda by n corresponds to the failure probability. So more concretely, we give an epsilon core set construction algorithm that outputs a core set of size O tilde of k log n by epsilon squared in worst case update time of O tilde of k squared log to the 5n divided by epsilon square for k median and k means. What we did not see in this talk is that although our space usage is order n because it stores all points, it works against an adaptive adversary because it doesn't assume anything on the next update. And this is actually very easy to see. But more importantly, what we show is that a reduction from the communication problem of index shows that this space usage is necessary. We also show by a reduction from online matrix vector multiplication problem to get some update time lower bounds for the k means problem. Okay, that's all. That was my talk, and thank you so much.